Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos welcomed the new year in St. Bart's, but the story does not begin on a Caribbean beach, nor does it begin with champagne, music, or celebration. It begins years earlier, far from the flash of cameras, in quiet boardrooms, private hangars, and a version of Hollywood power that rarely shows its face. By the time the couple appeared at Nikki Beach this winter, surrounded by friends, music drifting across the sand, security positioned carefully nearby, they were no longer just a billionaire and his partner. They had become a symbol of wealth, of reinvention, of how modern power moves, not loudly, but confidently, and always in public view. St. Bart's has long been a playground for the global elite, a place where discretion is expected and privacy is purchased, not requested. For Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez, returning here was not accidental. It was ritual, a familiar closing chapter to the year, following Christmas in Aspen, another location favored by those who understand that luxury today is about control, not excess. At Nikki Beach, the atmosphere was relaxed but unmistakably choreographed. Sanchez wore a wide-brimmed sun hat, shielding her face from the sun and perhaps from the narrative that follows her wherever she goes. Bezos stood nearby, observant, composed, surrounded by friends and guarded by a security detail that blended into the background while never truly disappearing. Then came the celebration. Bottle service, sparklers, performers weaving through the crowd. A birthday moment, festive but fleeting. And in that instant, Lauren Sanchez stood, dancing briefly from her seat, not as a spectacle, but as someone fully present in the moment. The cameras noticed, as they always do, but the moment itself felt unforced, unscripted, almost human. To some, it was just another celebrity sighting. To others, it was a reminder of how far this story has traveled. Because Jeff Bezos was once known almost exclusively as the quiet founder of Amazon, a man associated more with logistics than lifestyle. For years, he existed in the background of American wealth, powerful but private, influential but restrained. His personal life rarely made headlines, and when it did, it was usually in passing. Lauren Sanchez came from a different world. Media, television, aviation, and Los Angeles social circles shaped her career. She was visible, confident, accustomed to being seen. Their worlds, at first glance, seemed parallel but separate. And yet, when those worlds collided, the result was not subtle. Their relationship emerged into public view amid one of the most widely discussed personal upheavals in modern billionaire history. A marriage ended. Headlines multiplied. Private messages became public discussion. The media cycle turned relentless. And for a moment, it seemed as though Jeff Bezos, a man who built an empire on precision and control, had lost control of the narrative. But something unexpected happened. Instead of retreating, Bezos leaned forward. Instead of silence, there was visibility. The couple appeared together. Confident, unhidden, unapologetic. What could have been a reputational collapse slowly transformed into a reinvention. That reinvention was not just personal. It was strategic. The mega yacht Kourou, valued at an estimated $500 million, became more than a vessel. It became a floating statement. With its towering masts and unmistakable presence, it signaled a new phase of life for Bezos, one that embraced symbolism as much as scale. The yacht's carved figurehead, modeled after Sanchez, sparked conversation, fascination, and criticism, but it also made one thing clear. This was no longer a man interested in disappearing quietly into wealth. St. Bart's, again, became part of that language. The island saw the couple return year after year, each visit reinforcing continuity. Even when customs officials boarded the yacht last year for what was described as a routine inspection, the moment only added to the mythology. 3 hours of scrutiny, headlines swirling, and then silence. No scandal, no escalation, just another chapter absorbed into the larger narrative. Back in Aspen, the pattern continued. Shopping at Kimo-Sabe, public strolls through the snow, appearances with high-profile friends like DJ Diplo, photographs that felt casual but carried weight. Each image reinforced an idea. this was not chaos. This was composure. And perhaps that is the most misunderstood element of the Bezos-Sánchez story. It is not about excess alone. It is about transition. Jeff Bezos stepped away from Amazon's day-to-day operations not into obscurity, but into influence of a different kind. Space exploration, media ownership, cultural presence. The quiet technologist became a visible architect of modern elite culture. And beside him stood Sánchez, not as an accessory, but as a partner who understood visibility, understood storytelling, understood the power of image. Their wedding in Venice last summer was not just a celebration. It was a statement of arrival, a closing of one life chapter, and the formal opening of another. Venice, with its history, symbolism, and cinematic beauty, was a fitting backdrop. Not Hollywood exactly, but close enough in spirit. Which brings us back to Nikki Beach. A sunlit afternoon, music in the air, a brief dance, a moment caught by observers and retold by headlines. Simple on the surface, complex underneath. Because when Sánchez stood to dance, it was not just a celebration of a birthday. It was a signal that the noise had faded, the scrutiny had been absorbed, and what remained was confidence. The kind that does not demand attention, but never avoids it. And as the new year began in St. Bart's, the question was no longer how this story survived controversy, but how it evolved beyond it. Because in Hollywood, in power, and in modern celebrity culture, survival is not enough. Reinvention is everything. During the outing, what appeared on the surface to be a casual afternoon quickly shifted into something more symbolic, something carefully observed and quietly remembered. A birthday celebration unfolded at the venue, marked by sparklers cutting through the daylight and performers moving deliberately through the crowd. It was the kind of moment designed to be festive, fleeting, and just visible enough to be noticed. Sánchez responded instinctively. She stood from her seat and danced briefly, not to command attention, but to participate. The movement was natural, spontaneous, and short-lived, yet it carried a weight far beyond the moment itself. In celebrity culture, especially at this level of wealth and visibility, even the smallest gestures become signals. This was not excess. This was comfort. Comfort in public life, comfort in scrutiny, comfort in a role that has been fully accepted. Nearby, the presence of Jeff Bezos was steady and composed. There was no performance, no need for it. His posture reflected something learned over time, that power does not need to announce itself. It simply exists. Around them, friends mingled, security remained alert but unobtrusive, and the environment held a balance between celebration and control. Anchored not far away was Kourou, the mega yacht that has become an unmistakable extension of the couple's shared identity. Spotted once again in the waters surrounding St. Bart's, the vessel is more than a luxury item. It is a statement of permanence. At an estimated value reaching into the hundreds of millions, Kourou represents not just wealth, but arrival, the kind of arrival that no longer seeks approval or explanation. St. Bart's itself plays a quiet but crucial role in this story. For years, the island has served as a retreat for global elites who understand the difference between visibility and exposure. It is a place where privacy is not accidental, but engineered. For Bezos and Sánchez, returning here year after year is not coincidence. It is continuity. Their repeated visits form a pattern, and patterns matter in Hollywood power narratives. Aspen in winter, St. Bart's as the year turns, Venice for milestones. These locations become chapters, and together they construct a lifestyle that feels intentional rather than impulsive. But this comfort in public celebration did not always exist. There's a time when the relationship between Jeff Bezos and Sánchez arrived not as a lifestyle feature, but as a disruption. Headlines were sharp. Public opinion was divided. Private matters became public discussion. And suddenly, one of the most powerful men in the world was being discussed not for innovation or ambition, but for personal choices. For many, that kind of scrutiny forces retreat, silence, withdrawal, damage control behind closed doors. That is not what happened here. Instead, what followed was a gradual recalibration. The couple did not rush to explain themselves, nor did they attempt to rewrite history. They appeared together, calmly, consistently, allowing time to do what statements could not. Over months, then years, the noise softened. The outrage faded. The focus shifted. And with that shift came a redefinition. Jeff Bezos was no longer only the founder of Amazon. He became a figure of transformation, stepping away from daily corporate leadership, investing in space exploration, media, philanthropy, and personal freedom. Lauren Sánchez was no longer discussed solely in relation to the controversy that introduced her to global headlines. She became visible as a partner, a pilot, a communicator, and a woman navigating one of the most scrutinized roles in modern celebrity culture. Their appearances became measured, their visibility intentional. Each public moment seemed less like a reaction and more like a declaration that the storm had passed and what remained was stability. That is why moments like the brief dance at Nikki Beach matter, because they're not about the dance itself. They are about what no longer needs to be hidden. The mega yacht anchored offshore, the familiar island setting, the same year-end ritual repeated without disruption. These details, taken together, tell a story not of extravagance, but of normalization. A controversial beginning slowly reshaped into an accepted reality. In Hollywood and high society, acceptance does not arrive with applause. It arrives with repetition, with consistency, with the quiet understanding that the narrative has settled. And as Street Barts welcomed another new year, the image was clear. Not a couple chasing attention, but one moving comfortably within it. Not a scandal in motion, but a chapter that has already turned. Yet, beneath the calm surface, questions remain. About power, about influence, about how modern elites recover, rebuild, and ultimately redefine their legacy. Because in the world of cinematic sins, the most revealing moments are never the loudest ones. They are the moments that feel effortless. Prior to arriving in the Caribbean, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sánchez were seen in Aspen, Colorado, easing into the holiday season in a way that has quietly become familiar. Aspen, with its snow-covered streets and understated luxury, has long served as a winter refuge for those who move comfortably between wealth and discretion. For the couple, it was not a dramatic entrance, nor a public announcement. It was simply another return. They were spotted shopping locally, moving through high-end boutiques and well-known gathering spots that cater to a very specific kind of visitor. These were not rushed appearances. There was no sense of hiding, but no sense of display either. They walked together, spoke with friends, and allowed themselves to be seen without appearing staged. In a world where celebrity sightings are often calculated, this felt practiced in a different way, practiced through repetition. Social gatherings followed. Small circles. Familiar faces. Conversations that did not need to be overheard to be understood. Aspen has a way of compressing influence into intimate spaces where billionaires, artists, politicians, and media figures share tables, without spectacle. For Bezos and Sánchez, this environment offered something rare, visibility without vulnerability. What stands out most is not where they went, but how often they return. Their end-of-year travel has become a rhythm, almost ceremonial in its predictability. Aspen during the holidays. St. Bart's as the calendar turns. The movement between cold mountains and warm shores mirrors something deeper, a transition from reflection to renewal. Each year follows the same pattern, and patterns, in stories of power, matter more than isolated moments. This tradition did not pause after their wedding in Venice last summer. If anything, it solidified. Venice was not chosen at random. It was a setting rich with symbolism, a city shaped by history, endurance, and spectacle. Their wedding marked a public conclusion to years of private evolution. After that moment, there was no longer a need to redefine, explain, or defend. The story had crossed into its next phase. And yet, instead of dramatic change, what followed was continuity. Returning to Aspen after the wedding sent a subtle message that life had not fractured into something unfamiliar. That stability, not disruption, defined this chapter. For many high-profile couples, Marriage signals a retreat from public curiosity. For Bezos and Sánchez, it signaled normalization. This normalization is perhaps the most misunderstood element of their public journey. The early years of their relationship were shaped by scrutiny. Headlines were loud. Opinions were sharp. The public conversation revolved around timing, power, and personal choice. It was not gentle, and it was not forgiving. But time, when paired with consistency, has a way of reshaping narratives. Aspen represents that reshaping. There, the couple is not framed by controversy, but by context. Surrounded by others who understand discretion, wealth becomes background noise rather than the main story. Their presence blends into a larger tableau of influence, where no single figure dominates the frame. This is how modern power survives scandal. Not through confrontation, but through patience. Jeff Bezos, once known primarily as a relentless builder of systems, appears increasingly comfortable within social systems he once avoided. Lauren Sánchez, long familiar with public attention, moves through these spaces with ease. Together, they reflect a balance, one shaped by experience rather than impulse. Their holiday appearances do not feel celebratory in the traditional sense. They feel reflective, as though each year's return is a quiet acknowledgement of distance traveled, from disruption to acceptance, from scrutiny to routine. By the time they leave Aspen and head toward warmer shores, the narrative has already softened. The focus shifts, the questions grow quieter, and what remains is not a scandal revisited, but a lifestyle observed. Which is why the transition from Aspen to St. Bart's feels less like travel and more like progression. Cold to warm, private to public, reflection to renewal. And by the time the Caribbean sun comes into view, the couple is no longer carrying the weight of the year behind them. They're stepping into the next one with something far more valuable than privacy: control. Because in Hollywood, and in the rarefied world where wealth and influence intersect, control of the narrative is the final victory. And that victory is rarely announced. It is simply lived.